Hi, this is Mish Monk coming to you with a new podcast, Harry, Born a Prince. On September 15th, 1984, Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor was born to Charles and Diana. His brother William was born in 1982. Harry, his preferred moniker, entered the Windsor dynastic line as the third in line to the throne. We know that currently he's been pushed back by the births of William's 3 children and is now 6th in line. But thank goodness for that bit of good fortune. But boy, what an epic life Harry has had. It's a little bit of dark comedy, there is a family saga with crushing tragedy, and then you have a sort of redemptive arc coming out of all the craziness. But some of this drama occurred before Harry's birth, and then continued on with the sensibilities of a freakish train wreck. He was born a prince, and hours before his wedding in 2018, he was made a duke. But let me not jump ahead of Act 1, as I call this podcast, since it's the first of a 3-parter focused on Prince Harry. So now let's get back to Harry, our ginger-haired prince. And yes, a prince. That's some heady stuff right there. For the title is more than a job. Inside and out of the goldfish bowl of British monarchy life, being a prince, more importantly, being direct heirs to the throne, carry a lot more baggage. As Prince Harry now had this second skin as prince, that fit, it confined, and it defined the privileges he'd received throughout his life. Unless, of course, you had some citizen referendum or, perish the thought, a military coup that stripped the royals of their trappings. We mere mortals are born into our families with only the informal titles of eldest, middle child, or there's the baby. Our outer trappings that additionally define us comes much later when we get our jobs as firefighter, a manager, lawyer, or cashier. Unlike most families' concerns about shelter and income, Harry was naturally shielded from the everyday drudgery of surviving. His fate or fortune afforded him to be raised in an environment that had no stress about getting adequate food or shelter or stability. He would never be considered a burden on society, and I'm not talking about the politics of the monarchy's value. I'm talking about the value that we add or take away from certain segments or certain people in our society. Harry's value meant that he would be protected from the ills of the world and steered from any collisions of society's rules. His value meant that he had access to the best schools, best medical care, best housing, best consideration, like he got the benefit of the doubt if he should fall from grace, all because of his lineage. Think how tough it is to stay grounded, living in that manufactured reality. And Harry entered life on this raised platform. As a British royal, in the footsteps of his grandmother, who set the tone for her family, he had to display good behavior, good manners, good sense. You've seen kids act up in stores and have meltdown over things we deem minor. It's what kids do. They push boundaries. They're flexing their muscles for a sense of independence. But the little royals are not expected to lose emotional control even at a young age. The modeling of a well-socialized royal child is a thing to be seen and admired by the media and the adoring public. Harry, at 2 and 3 years old, was already being coached to wave, to stand still, and follow his big brother's lead for model behavior. But we've seen some photos of Harry as the normal child, with a petulant pout, dark scowl, or sticking out his tongue, before he get whisked off by his mother or someone else. For unlike his cousins, Harry was to be the pint-sized version to his father's future king demeanor. And alongside his brother, Harry was primed to be the dutiful brother at William's side. So while the royal family is in this insular unit, outside those walls, a lot was happening in the world when Harry was born, some of which had direct impact on his mother's and eventually on his philanthropic interests. So buckle up. Let's head down the memory lane in 1984 when Harry was born. The biggest public health crisis at the time was the AIDS virus. It was discovered and becoming part of the public discourse. The UK had lost another colony with Brunei leaving the fold, and they had just signed the agreements for the return of Hong Kong to China. It was the year when the infamous miners' strike clashed with Margaret Thatcher's conservative government that was intent on free market reform. It was bloody and brutal. Strikes often resulted in injuries and arrests, and the High Court ruled against the miners. Thatcher also fought with the EU to reduce the UK's contribution. And look where things have headed. There was also the unfortunate case where a female police constable was killed by a gunman during a siege of the Libyan embassy in London, where another 11 people were shot. And as a result, 30 Libyan diplomats left the country. It was the year of the murder of Mark Tildesley by a pedophile ring connected to a traveling carnival show that had abused and killed several youth, mainly runaways. The British unemployment was high at 3.26 million, with 1.2 million made up of 16 to 24-year-olds. And one of the biggest news was British media proprietor Robert Maxwell of the Mirror, who died when he fell off of his yacht and drowned. Now, the significance of his name is that if we fast forward to July 2020, Maxwell's youngest child, daughter Ghislaine Maxwell, was arrested and charged in New Hampshire with 6 federal crimes involving minors' trade, travel, and seducing to engage in criminal sexual activity, and conspiracy to entice children to engage in illegal sex acts. Can we just say Andrew? Okay. Then there was attention brought on the famine in Ethiopia. Charities turned their focus on the issue, and 36 British and Irish musicians combined efforts to form Band Aid to record Do They Know It's Christmas to raise funds for the Ethiopian crisis. So in this tumultuous time, Diana was raising her boys. Unfortunately, all the uninhibited demonstrations of love for her sons wasn't going to be enough to eclipse the public implosion of a marriage between two ill-suited people. And it's not that they were a good match in the beginning and then it unraveled. They never should have been together. It's an arranged marriage brokered by people on both sides who didn't give a toss about the person who had more to lose with this arrangement, and that was Diana. Just like we took a look at the historical setting that Harry was born into, we need to take a look at the support system that he was born into. And in this case, I'm focused more on Diana because Harry's motives and choices are heavily influenced by his mother. And whether it was witnessing her imperfections and the low points of her life, to seeing her transform into a confident, accomplished woman, she definitely played a major part in his decisions. So Diana was born into nobility, but her lifestyle did not mirror Charles. Her mother left the family when Diana was 6 years old. Apparently, Diana's brother reportedly said that his father wanted a son so badly that he sent their mother to clinics in London to find out what was her problem. A boy was born a year before Diana, but he died soon after. Diana's brother felt that his mother never got over the humiliation of those visits to the clinics. And after she left the family for a married man whom she later married, her father won the bitter custody battle for the children. Are you hearing some familiar notes of Diana's early life? Diana grew up in a park house situated on the Sandringham estate. The Spencers leased the house from its owner, Queen Elizabeth. The royal family frequently holidayed at the neighboring Sandringham house, and Diana played with Prince Andrew and Prince Edward. So you get the idea of this close-knit aristocratic group. Diana was homeschooled before going to a private school and an all-girls boarding school by 9 years old. Later, she attended one term of a finishing school in Switzerland and then moved to London, where she lived in her mother's flat with 2 schoolmates. When she hit 18 years old, her mother bought her a flat where she lived with 3 flatmates. She worked as a dance instructor, a playgroup preschool assistant. She did cleaning for her sister and her sister's friends. She served as hostess to parties. She was a nanny. She was a nursery teacher's assistant. All of these jobs were done in a 2-year stint until she got engaged at 19. So when exactly did Diana have the time to really know what she wanted for herself or what she wanted out of life? Although she had these low-paying jobs, she also didn't truly learn to be self-reliant. But, she did have a taste of regular life of a British citizen. She was 19 or 20 years old compared to Charles's 33 years old when they courted and got engaged and married. He'd met her when she was 16 and he was dating her older sister. So let me pop in to say that he mostly dated women his age. So really, a 19-year-old would not have held his interest without prompting from others. During the summer of 1980, he supposedly got interested in her as serious marriage material. We already know that Camilla had been reviewed and deemed not a good match. Then she went off and got married. The private courtship was brisk, as Diana was whisked away by Charles on a yacht. Then there was the official invite to meet Betty, Philip, and Betty's mother before public courtship was announced, and then the engagement. Diana left her flat to live in Clarence House with the Queen's mother during her engagement, and then at Buckingham Palace until the wedding. So this must have been courtier heaven to manipulate and groom this young woman. She was swallowed up into the firm as if she had no life before Charles. On November 5th, 1981, the princess's pregnancy was officially announced, and this is with William. 12 weeks later, she falls down a staircase, and the royal gynecologist was summoned, who said she suffered severe bruising, but the fetus was uninjured. Later, Diana confessed on a tape that she had intentionally thrown herself down the stairs because she was feeling so inadequate. That's some scary stuff. And how miserable must she have been to feel so isolated and unworthy to risk her life and her unborn child's. The next month, pictures of her in a bikini while holidaying was published in the media. The Queen subsequently released a statement and called it the blackest day in the history of British journalism. So once again, Betty can speak up. Diana said that she and Charles were closest during her pregnancy with Harry. Maybe that healing energy managed to pass on to Harry to fortify his young life for what was to come. Diana was said to rarely defer to the prince or to the royal family as relations grew strained, and was even more so when it came to the children. She dismissed the royal family nanny, engaged one of her own choosing, selected their schools and clothing, planned their outings, and when able took them to school herself. She also organized her public duties around their schedules. By 1992, Harry's parents were separated, but not before crap hit the fan. Unhappy Diana chose to have affairs and platonic relationships as if to fill the emotional gap in her loveless marriage. In 1989, Diana attended Camilla's sister's birthday party, where she confronted Camilla about the affair. Betty and Philip tried an intervention for the two to reconcile. Philip also wrote Diana a letter asking her to examine their behavior from the other's point of view. Harry at this point was now 5 years old. Then 1992 and 1993, the tapes of the phone conversations were leaked, and it reflected negatively on both parents with Squidgygate versus Camillagate. At this point, Harry's now between 8 and 9 years old. On these tapes, Diana said, "I was quite happy to give all this up and just go off and live with him." She described this special someone as the greatest friend she's ever had, though she denied any sexual relationship with the person. She also spoke bitterly of Charles, saying that he made me feel so inadequate in every possible way that each time I came up for air, he pushed me down again. Diana also admitted to suffering from depression, bulimia, and self-mutilation to her arms and legs. These tapes were the final nail when Betty sent letters to Charles and Diana advising them to divorce. Now, this is insane, isn't it? That your mother-in-law is advising you to get a divorce. And not only that, the Prime Minister is involved, senior privy councillors are involved, there are weeks of talks involved in this, and Charles agrees immediately, as if he needed any prompting. He was ready to cut it and go away. Meanwhile, Diana took her time, but then issued her own announcement of the divorce agreement and the money she would receive, all without Buckingham Palace's advance knowledge and, of course, their consent. And I had to chuckle at that one because, heck, Harry learned a few things from his mother on how to deliver some news. So what does all this mean as we look at a young Harry? Well, like I said, he was between 8 and 9 years old as this hit its final point. So he had a front row seat at the deceit and betrayal between his mother and father. He saw among the royal courtiers who liked or disliked his mother. He saw the media criticize her and strip her of her dignity. He saw his mother's mental health at its lowest point, with little to no meaningful intervention. And while Harry is not the only child to endure a parent's divorce, the point is that the international spotlight on this nightmare allowed for no privacy, and certainly no public emotional displays. So I'll close Act 1 on a reminder that Diana used to take William and Harry for private visits to homeless shelters and Centerpoint Services, which is a charity that provides accommodation and support to homeless people. She was also known for the occasional trips to McDonald's or a time when they could enjoy a day of fun at a theme park. So it's easy to see that her insistence on exposing them to life outside the realm had significant impact on Harry, and I feel that that eventually gave him purpose. So this is Mish Monk signing out. See you for part 2, Harry walking his own path.